Going to take a quick break and talk about Drizzly. Drizzly is fantastic. It's the most convenient way to buy beer, wine, and spirits with delivery to your doorstep. And get this, under 60 minutes. It's insane.
Yeah, I think what's also great is you can compare prices and shop different places and get your best deal.
And you're shopping and you're doing a lot of cooking during the holiday season and you're all busy and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I need that bottle of wine.
Wrapping presents and you don't want to have to take time to run to the store.
Or you forget a gift.
Yeah.
And you need it delivered real quickly. Here's the way to do it. You download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com. And Drizzly is giving every new customer $5 off their first order. What's that promo code, Seaton?
FAST5 at checkout.
FAST5 at checkout. It's drizzly.com.
More than 1 in 3 people will face cancer in their lifetime. Unfortunately, fear can stop you from getting your cancer screening, but it won't stop cancer. Early detection can save your life. Don't wait for symptoms to appear to act. Cancer screening is safe, effective, and accessible for everyone, including free or low-cost screening programs. Go to cancerscreeninfo.com right now for free screening resources and recommendations from the American Cancer Society. Don't wait. Early detection can save your life. Go to cancerscreeninfo.com today. Cancerscreeninfo.com.
Impact of Influence, the tragic story of a powerful South Carolina family and the mysterious deaths that they are linked to. Hello, everyone, and thank you for your continued support of this podcast. The little project we thought was going to be just for friends and family has exploded, and we are nothing but grateful for you and the words that you give us of love and the corrections that we need at times when we either misspeak or mispronounce names or streets or whatever the case may be. I am Matt Harris and my co-host Seaton Tucker. And coming up in this podcast in just a few seconds, we're going to talk to the attorney of Gloria Satterfield's sons. Gloria Satterfield died in 2018 with a fall on Alex Murdaugh's property. Alex has said that dogs tripped her down the steps and then she died. There's a question about where that money went, so we're going to talk to him. And Gloria Satterfield's case has been reopened by SLED. They are opening a criminal probe into the death of the Murdaugh's housekeeper. In 2018, she spent a couple decades working for the family. Trip and fall accident is what was reported. Now, SLED said they have opened the case at the request of the Hampton County coroner. And the coroner found inconsistencies with Satterfield's stated manner of death, as far as calling it natural on their death certificate. And the descendant's death was not reported to the coroner at the time, nor was an autopsy performed, the coroner's request to SLED said. That's huge. So if you want to recap a little bit, Stephen Smith case reopened after the death of Paul and Maggie, the murders of those two. And now Gloria Satterfield's case has been reopened, and we'll get to the attorney in a second. Also, after we talk to Gloria's son's attorneys, Seaton, what do we have?
Well, we had bond hearings for Curtis Edward Smith happen just yesterday, and also Alec was charged, and his bond hearing was also held yesterday.
Okay, we'll get to that on our thoughts, but first let's talk to the Satterfield family attorney. So with us is Eric Bland from Bland Richter. And Eric, welcome to our podcast. It's so nice of you to take time out because I'm sure you're pretty busy. So you are representing the trust and the family of Gloria Satterfield. So how did this fall into your lap? How did you find out about this?
Well, my partner and I, a significant portion of our practice is legal malpractice. We sue attorneys and represent clients who have been victimized by attorneys and handle certain grievances against attorneys for clients and sometimes represent attorneys. It's not a popular thing to do, lawyers suing other lawyers, and especially in a small state like South Carolina, where I came from in Pennsylvania, it's a little more accepted. But when we started doing it in the early 2000s, it was virtually unheard of. And then we got a couple multi-million-dollar settlements, and then we got the largest jury verdict in a legal malpractice case in 2006 for $5.5 million, and it just became, I don't know whether more accepted, but attorneys that would turn down legal malpractice cases or tell their clients that they didn't have anything would refer them to us. And most of our work comes from other lawyers who see the malpractice but don't want to bring it because either they know the other party or it's just too hot of an issue. And in this particular case, our clients and one of their family members finally had enough of the arms and elbows that they were getting and no answers regarding what happened to the claims that were being brought on behalf of their mother after they read about them in the newspaper. Not that they were told about them, but they read about them in the newspaper, that they finally had the courage to go to an attorney. You know,
Wow.
when you think about it, it took a tremendous amount of courage for these two young boys to actually go to a lawyer to question what the Murdaughs had done and what their own lawyer, Corey Fleming, had done to them or for them. You know, one, there was the family relationship that these boys had with the Murdaughs and Mr. Murdaugh, Alex Murdaugh. But two, in that small town, you know, to go to a lawyer to question the Murdaughs, you know, lawyers obviously are bound by attorney-client privilege, but, you know, they had to think in the back of their head, is somebody going to call up Alex Murdaugh and say, hey, these boys are questioning what's going on with claims that were made in connection with their mother's estate.
Right.
So they go see this lawyer, and the lawyer hears this and, you know, knows that there was an article about that there had been a settlement of at least $505,000. And the boys look at him and say, we haven't gotten one dime. And that settlement took place in 2018. You know, God bless, the lawyer had enough courage to say, hey, you guys need to call Eric Bland. And that's how it got started last week.
Oh, wow. So can you tell us how your clients actually originally went to Mr. Fleming as their attorney?
Well, that was a complete handoff by Alex Murdaugh. And that's kind of what started, I guess, of Wednesday this week after we filed our lawsuit, why SLED decided to reopen the death of Gloria Satterfield. The only person that gave an explanation for how she fell was Alex Murdaugh. Because after she fell down the stairs, she had a closed head injury. She never really regained consciousness, so she wasn't able to communicate on the next 3 weeks before she died and explaining how the fall happened or confirm. So what happened is at the funeral, Mr. Murdaugh came up to the two boys and said, hey, I think you need to go see this attorney named Corey Fleming, and he's going to represent you and have claims brought against me in connection with your mother's death. And then I'm going to, hopefully he'll recover money and it'll go to you guys. And he didn't tell the boys that Corey Fleming was his best friend, that Corey Fleming was his college roommate, that Corey Fleming was the godfather of Paul Murdaugh, and that he had actually worked with Corey Fleming before he worked at the Murdaugh firm, at Corey Fleming's firm. And so our kids go to see this Corey Fleming, and Corey Fleming says, yeah, what we're going to do is I'm going to make these claims against Alex, and he's already admitted that he's responsible for your mother falling down the stairs because his dogs tripped her, which puts the insurance companies of Alex in a real tough position because, you know, just because somebody dies on your property doesn't mean that you're liable.
Right.
But now you have the insured, Alex, saying it was my fault.
Huh.
And if that was to go in front of a Hampton County jury, you know, somebody would light up the jury with a huge verdict. And so all these settlements were coming in. The real smart thing that they did was somehow they convinced the kids that the personal representative should be Chad Westendorf at the bank. Because by having Chad Westendorf be the personal representative, that means that Corey Fleming doesn't have to communicate with the heirs, with my clients. His only client is the personal representative. And so no notices need to be sent to the boys. No They don't have to show up for any court hearing. They don't have to be advised of when there were settlements. Those duties belong to the personal representative. Remember, the personal representative, in addition to owing fiduciary duties to the clients, my kids, he's an officer of the court. And so he has to file accountings and inventory of estate assets. And the most amazing thing is that almost $4 million now of settlements have taken place. And there isn't one single court order, as required by South Carolina law, signed by a judge, which provides for these settlements. Remember, under South Carolina law, a judge has to inquire in open court, is the settlement of this case with this carrier in the best interest of the estate? He has to ask the beneficiaries, are you satisfied with the services of your attorney? Has everything been explained to you? Are you doing this under duress? Do you understand that you're waiving your right to a jury trial? Do you understand that if you take this money, you're going to release certain insurance companies? All those things have to be asked, and they have to be part of an order. Because in this case, $475,000 of this was a wrongful death claim that would go directly, presumably, to the kids, but $25,000 was a survival claim, which has to be through the court, because that's the survival claim belonging to Gloria herself for surviving 3 weeks after the negligence of somebody else. And that money never went through the probate court.
How does that happen? I mean, how do you suspect or anything how does that happen? Because they've got, are judges, or is there someone in the know, a judge or whoever?
I think it's all going to come out on how this happened, how judges were able to somehow give approval and not have it part of the court record, and that there were no orders written. And I think you're going to learn how Corey Fleming wrote checks to a company named Forge. And there is a company called Forge Consulting, which does structured settlements. A structured settlement is, let's say I get $100,000 for a minor client. Well, you don't want to give, $1 million. You don't want to give $1 million to a young kid. And so what you do is you buy an annuity and you structure the payments of that over time. So over a course of 15 years, that $1 million can turn into $2.5 million. And it's paid out as the minor reaches a certain age. And so he wrote a check to Forge, which is not Forge Consulting, which was evidently a non-existent company. Alex Murdaugh opened up a bank account in Bank of America, got the check and deposited it, and after the attorney's fees was paid to Corey Fleming, presumably the rest of the money went to Alex Murdaugh.
Holy moly.
Was it just $500,000 or was it more than that?
$4 million.
$4 million.
$4 million.
Yes. And we're taking a little break to talk about something we have fallen in love with, which is Green Chef. Seton, you just told me you're ready to go order some more, and so am I.
Yes, I love it. There's so many definitely choices, and everything is pre-portioned, easy to follow. It makes cooking really simple, especially for a weeknight.
Yeah, we're so busy, everybody running around doing their things with kids and whatnot. So just get the Green Chef out. It's one little bag. You're good to go. It's America's #1 meal kit for eating well, meaning the best meal kit, whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, or just want to eat more balanced meals. This is the way to go. And the family loved them?
They love them, and I don't have to go to the grocery store.
That's right. That is a big thing. They come right, and you don't have to worry about missing an ingredient. Go to greenchef.com/Murdaugh10 and use code Murdaugh10, MURDAUGH10, to get 10 free meals, including free shipping. Green Chef, the #1 meal kit for eating well. Going to pause for a moment and talk about Warby Parker. I've used Warby Parker for glasses for a couple of years now, so I'm so happy they're signing on as a sponsor for the podcast. And Seton, I know you love the try.
Yes, this is the first time I tried Warby Parker, and I ordered my 5 pairs for free, and you have 5 days to try them on. There's no obligation to buy, and they ship for free, and they include a prepaid return label, and I love the selection. I found out I have a wide face, and The Daisy Wides were the ones that worked best for me, and my husband complimented me on them, which is not like him to notice my granny readers.
And the glasses start at $95, including prescription lenses. Don't let your FSA or HSA dollars go to waste. Put them to good use on Warby Parker prescription glasses, prescription sunglasses, contact lenses, and eye exams. Try 5 pairs of glasses at home for free at warbyparker.com/Murdaugh. That's warbyparker.com/MURDAUGH. That is, had you heard of the Murdaugh family prior to this?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So everybody in the Low Country and in South Carolina knows the power of the Murdaugh family. 80-some years doing their solicitor job, and the.
It's not so much the Murdaugh family, but it's the Parker law firm. They're responsible for the venue law being changed in our state. Do you know that?
Yeah, we did. We actually did when we were talking about the history of the Murdaugh family, we talked a little bit about that.
That is where you can sue as long as you have a presence.
Yeah. If the train tracks ran through Hampton County, if there was a train wreck in Greenville or Anderson, you could sue in Hampton County. And, the Parker law firm, and there's some great lawyers there. I mean, Johnny Parker, Mark Ball, Ronnie Crosby, incredible lawyers, incredible trial lawyers. And so what the firm did, which was smart, is they really engrafted themselves into the community by, doing pig pickings, paying for funerals, sponsoring Little League teams, so that, when the jurors were picked and they looked up and there was a Murdaugh lawyer there, they were predisposed to their clients. And there was some very large jury verdicts coming out of that county through the 80s and 90s. And finally, the defendants wised up and they would just settle the case rather than give it to Johnny Parker to go before the jury and then get lit up for $15-20 million.
Yeah.
And so what everybody was doing was, if I had a case against Piggly Wiggly, if, a shelf fell on somebody or whatever, because there was a Piggly Wiggly in Hampton County, I would associate that firm. And then immediately the defense attorney would pay, because they were not going to go in front of that jury there, and they certainly weren't going to go in front of that jury with Perry Buckner being the judge.
Wow. And that's why they say Walmart wasn't built there. And I know some people have a McDonald's there, and they wanted to get out because they were a little worried about that. You mentioned the judge. What is this because why did you bring his name up particularly?
Well, he was supposedly one of the judges that approved one of the settlements in this case, but he is, that's his home circuit. And, the Murdaugh firm appears before him every single day.
Yeah. Do you think, so you think that there's going to be a lot of like dominoes falling here, that it's going to be multiple?
I think at the end of this, I think my client's case is the epicenter of all of this because of the amount of money. Al Capone didn't get convicted and go to jail because of all his killings.
Yeah.
It was income tax evasion. And I think this is the case that's going to take everybody down and Alec hard, because you're talking about multi-million dollars, breach of trust, kind of polluting the justice system and how these settlements were approved. And I think at the end of the day, lawyers are going to be disbarred. I think it's going to have to ask some hard questions about judges who were involved in the approval of the settlement of these cases, the probate court, why they didn't keep up with these settlements.
And certainly your clients can't be the only ones. I mean, I can't imagine this is a one-shot deal.
No, you don't. I don't think you wake up at 52 years old or 50 years old and decide you're going to do this. But I have no knowledge that this would have been done with anybody else. It wouldn't surprise me, but I certainly don't have any knowledge.
Can you tell me a little bit about what your clients were told about what happened in the accident?
Well, I don't want to reveal attorney-client privilege that I've had with them, but other than their knowledge is what Alec has publicly said, that their mother, there's no video, there was no witnesses. It's only Alec saying that, sadly, it was caused by our dogs.
Okay. How long was she employed by the Murdaugh family?
I think over 23 or 24 years.
And what was she, housekeeper or a nanny or?
Jack of all.
Yeah. How old were the kids when she passed?
In their late 20s.
Yeah. Wow. I think it's impressive what you're doing. I know that taking on that family, or taking on, not necessarily that family, I shouldn't say that, taking on the law practice that involves Murdaugh's is daunting. So good for you, and I hope you find justice.
I appreciate it. I mean, look, we've sued the largest law firms in the world. Baker McKenzie. We've sued, Motley Rice, Nexon Pruitt, Nelson Mullins in this state. Lawyers, no matter who they are, put on their pants the same way, pull them up and tie their shoes. They don't deserve any special dispensation. Lawyers certainly don't have a problem suing doctors, bankers, insurance people. We shouldn't have a problem suing each other.
And one would argue that should be even a higher, level of trust in lawyers.
Sure.
When it comes to law.
We're a self-policing profession. We're supposed to police ourselves, and we're doing a poor job of it. And what really does bother me is that with conduct like Corey Fleming and Murdaugh in this matter, it pollutes all lawyers, and we don't deserve that broad brush, because there are great lawyers. That Murdaugh firm, has done some incredibly excellent work for just plaintiffs. Really good work. And it's sad that the actions of Alex Murdaugh, I think, are going to tarnish that firm for many years to come.
Yes, and we have an attorney on from Cornell Law School who was talking about death penalties, about I think 8 or 9 overturned back in the 60s and 70s that Randolph Murdaugh II had put on death row. So that's been a long history of some things going on there. Thank you very much.
All right, I'll see you.
That was great. That was a great interview, and one of my takeaways from there is that we have been saying for weeks about tentacles. I kept referring to them as tentacles, and I think that judges going down. Who knows if there's law enforcement involved? Where all this reaches?
Corey Fleming is really. I mean, he's in some hot water.
Because people are, and who's going to sing, right? There's going to be people singing and saying, okay, I'll give you this name or that name or this name or that name. There's going to be wheeling and dealing going, I would imagine. And I would imagine that a lot of folks in that region are shaking right now. Maybe not even that region, maybe all the way up to the state level in South Carolina.
Yeah,
this
definitely.
Is big time. So let's go back to what we started the day with, talking about the hearings and the bond hearings of Eddie and Alec. So what happened?
So I watched both of these yesterday, and the first was Curtis Edward Smith, and he came in. He did not have a lawyer with him. He looked extremely disheveled. Mm-hmm. He was shaking, almost, I don't know if he was nervous or maybe some sort of withdrawal symptoms, but he definitely
wasn't looking too good.
Was not looking good. And he was charged with assault and battery of a higher and aggravated nature, which the bond for that was $20,000, assisted suicide, that was $15,000, insurance fraud, $5,000, and conspiracy to commit insurance fraud, $5,000, and pointing and presenting a firearm, another $5,000. So that was a total bond set at $55,000. And actually, thanks to my web sleuth friend, Molly, she sent me the information that he was actually released on bond. So he did post bond, so he is out.
Gotcha.
And then later in the day, Alec was charged with insurance fraud, conspiracy to commit insurance fraud, and filing a false police report. He arrived at the court, he was chained, and he had a tan jumpsuit, which was definitely different than how Paul, his son, arrived at the courthouse when he was arraigned.
I think if you don't know, that was one of the controversies when Paul Murdaugh, who has since been murdered, was indicted on charge of boating under the influence that killed Mallory Beach. One of the controversies was that his mugshot is him, and I think it's a collared shirt.
Yeah, it's a nice looking
yes
plaid shirt.
And it wasn't even in a what you would imagine a mugshot to be.
He wasn't in the jumpsuit
Right.
like Alec was.
Yes.
And Alec, in his mugshot, is wearing the jumpsuit.
Well, they weren't going to make that mistake again.
And so in his mugshot, you get to see the front of his head, and then during the bond hearing, you could see the back of his head. And at no time did I see anything that looked like a head wound. There were no shaved parts.
No
And
Band-Aids, nothing.
no Band-Aids, nothing. No, if he'd received some stitches, nothing to indicate that. And you would kind of suspect if you had been shot in the head.
And it was as bad as his lawyer, Dick Harpootlian, had said, which was an entry and exit wound. You would have to assume that.
Right.
I haven't been shot in the head before, but I'm guessing you might need a Band-Aid or something.
No, I would think that you would have some sort of evidence of that. Now, the prosecutor asked for his bail to be set at $100,000, and the judge actually granted $20,000 personal recognizant bond and allowed him to go to rehab out of state. Now, his lawyer did say the rehab he was at, I think he was in the detox program, did not have a bed. So he's at a different rehab facility than the first location he was. He was also required to surrender his passport, sign a waiver of extradition since he's going to be at an out-of-state facility. The prosecutor asked for him to be wearing a GPS, but the judge did not require that. However, she did say that if he did leave the rehab without permission, that his bond would be revoked and she would issue a warrant for his arrest.
I'm guessing the GPS, the reasoning for the GPS might be since he's going to a rehab facility, that's very private. The court probably may respect that regardless of the charges. And, the charges of Alec aren't the kind of charge, they're not anything violent. They're not like a safe against himself.
Right. And
So
people were really upset that Smith's bond was set much higher than Alec's bond, but he had some violent stuff, pointing and presenting a firearm, assisted suicide, assault and battery. So Alec was not charged with any of those things. So it does seem to make sense that his bond would be lower. His lawyer, Dick Harpootlian, said that he was totally cooperating with SLED. He did appear to kind of be crying a little bit. You couldn't see the front of his face, but it looked like Harpootlian was comforting him.
Yes.
He also says that Harpootlian says that he had a 20-year drug addiction and, talks about his financial situation and says that he's not a man of significant means anymore and that his financial situation is not good.
Right. Which is amazing if you think about the fact that he has been taking funds for a long time, and multi-million-dollar funds. Now, granted, he spent a lot on drugs from what Dick Harpootlian says.
But, I still think if you had that sort of level, I don't think it's possible to still be alive and spend that much. The alleged amount of money that's missing.
Multi-millions.
Multi-millions of dollars. I don't think it's possible to be alive.
And as far as we know, he didn't have massive a lot of properties. He had the hunting Moselle property in the name of his late wife, and they had the beach house in Edisto.
Which are both, the Smith family has filed petitions to make sure that they... Beach family. Beach.
Yeah, Mallory Beach's family. Make
Yes.
sure that they don't do anything with those properties in case they get money in the civil suit.
Right. But
now he's saying he has no money. So I don't know. And people are questioning how he had a $10 million life insurance policy if he didn't have any assets 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago, right, when he took out this life insurance policy.
Well, and I think shortly before or after that, I'd have to look back, but they did sell their house in Hampton proper, so maybe he filed that before.
Yeah, the Hampton proper house just was sold, yes. So a lot's shaking and baking and things are coming out, and still we remember, of course, that there's a lot of tragedy and sadness around this. It has involved 5 deaths, and we hope that each and every one of those people gets justice. Thank you again for being here. Now, we have been not making money off this podcast, and we don't really need to, but there is a place to donate. You can go on the show notes, and there'll be a place there you can go and donate so we can keep doing this, because we actually are paying to get it done, paying our studio and our man Dwayne over there. So if you hit that button, you like what you're hearing, throw us $5 or $10. We might be able to pay for this one session. Thanks again for being here. Maybe rate the podcast, please. Thank you. We'll talk again soon.
It's not too late to make someone's holiday season a special one. Start now as an Amazon Delivery Station warehouse associate to earn some extra money for the holidays. You'd help bring joy to thousands near you by preparing packages and loading them up for their final delivery. With night and early morning shifts available through the new year, you'd also have the flexibility to spend time with your loved ones. To start as a delivery station associate, go to amazon.com/holidaywork. Amazon is a proud equal opportunity employer.